Okay, so welcome, and I'm so excited to have Manny Wolfe on all the way from the US to beaming here to me in Australia. I will say to you that I have got a snotty cold today, so if I have to blow my nose or anything like that, you're going to have to excuse me today. Welcome to How to Build Your Magnetic Stage Presence. So it's all about amping up your speaking presentation. So I guess, Manny, not only will we talk a little bit about how to actually get the gigs, but more importantly, we'll talk about how to present and move our audience, because you are a speaker trainer, and that's what you do. You teach us how to interact, build rapport, and move our audience.
That is exactly right. I will be able to field questions if you wish about how to break into speaking. You're going to find that it's sort of unromantic and low tech. It basically takes grunt work. The thing that I find that most people sort of are slow to adopt is that you've got to look at it like a business, or at the very least a part of your business, or it just won't show up that way.
So what I'm going to do for everyone is that if you have a question, I've got a couple that I'm going to lead off with, Manny, that come from me and some of the people who couldn't make it as well. But when you have a question or you want to jump in, you have the ability to unmute yourself. So at the moment, everyone is muted except for Manny and I, but you have the ability to unmute yourself. And if you want me to unmute you, if you can't find it, just pop your question in the chat box here, because I'm going to keep an eye on that. And then I will unmute it so you can actually ask it live of Manny. So if you are going to ask a live question, make sure that your microphone is actually on.
Yes. Yes.
We've had it a few times where it hasn't been.
For all of my skill and talent with communication, I am not a lip reader.
So one of the things that I did, I'm just going to lead this off because I really want to take off with this first, and then we can go to everywhere else. But you and I had a chat, a week ago, and one of the things that I loved that you talked about to me was how you need to incorporate the 3 different type of archetypes in your voice in your presentation. One of them was the lover, and then there were other 2 as well. If I think I remember, one was the teacher. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how to bring that into our voice?
Sure. So what that is it's a simple way of remembering a pretty complex set of ideas. So I teach vocal tonality as part of my core curriculum. I teach body language, then vocal tonality, and then storytelling. And when we go into, let's say it's a group coaching or a one-on-one coaching type of a situation where it's going to be going for a while, right? I go deeper into the voice. But the thing to remember about the voice is that you can think of it as, you could compare it to a guitar. And you should think of your voice as an instrument, even if you're not a singer. But if you had a choice between 2 guitar players and one of them played the same note over and over again at the same speed, and the other one played beautiful, swelling lines and chords and created spacious, gorgeous arrangements, I think I can predict who you'd like to listen to more, right? And so that's the way we need to think of our voice. And so for you guys listening, what I told Vanessa was that the simple way to remember the complex set of different ideas that need to be present in how we use our voice is to think about a warrior, a lover, and a teacher. Now, they're all going to speak differently, aren't they? The warrior is going to be very forceful, very self-confident. Well, they're all going to be self-confident, because if you speak without self-confidence, you're already, you're starting at the wrong starting line. You're starting at the one behind everybody else. So, but the warrior is exclamatory. The warrior is confident. The warrior is not afraid to be forceful. Then we have the teacher, the scholar, either one, I sort of interchange those 2. And this voice is thoughtful. This voice is intelligent. Not to say the other ones shouldn't be intelligent, by the way. But this voice is the voice you use when you're, let's say, educating. I'm sort of using it now. This is sort of how I would talk at the front of the class.
Yes, I thought you were in your teacher right now.
This is the one that most people miss and that has the most power, is the lover. The lover seduces. The lover is playful. The lover draws you in. The lover is not afraid to be, sexy, right? And that's really important. See, being sexy goes so far beyond just sort of the dynamics of, flirting and stuff like that. It's such a core part of our potential for presence, for power.
Do you find that people are a bit adverse to that idea that I'm presenting, so therefore I'm going to put on my lover, my seducer?
Yeah. That's why I put so much emphasis on it. It's the place people are uncomfortable. And I say we, painting with the broadest brush imaginable, there are certain things that we're sort of generally taught not to flaunt, not to do, right? And since there's so much inherent confidence in being sexy and flirtatious, it sort of falls into that, you guys in Australia call it the tall poppy syndrome, right? Do you know that expression?
Yes. Yeah. If you get too high up, you will be pulled down without a doubt. And I don't think Americans have that particular thing in their culture, but it is pretty rife here in Aussie.
We actually do.
Okay.
But there's a little bit of a contrast because we also have this whole John Wayne manifest destiny, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. But the truth of the matter is that the 10 to 15% who do that make the other 85 to 90% very uncomfortable, And in my case, that 85 and 90% was my blood family. I had to figure all these things out, just sort of going upstream against a whole family that was like, why do you always have to be so big? Why do you always have to be so dramatic? Why do you always have to be pretty much everything that I was met with, why do you have to be that way? Right? Trilby says that Madonna is a great example of I'm looking, I'm not finding it. A great example of the lover, and she's got jumped on so much. Yes, it's even more sort of risque when a woman is not afraid to be sexy. It's utterly ridiculous, but that's how it is. And so you need to think of these three voices as constantly being sort of used and blended together in your presenting. The point I made with Vanessa sounded something like this for you guys and girls listening. We were talking in this way that is very much like the teacher for me now. And if you guys close your eyes, I'll give you an example of sort of the difference, right? The switch. So if I'm talking to you as the teacher and I want to teach you things, it might sound like this for me. But if I want to convince you of something and I want you to know that it's like you and me doing this thing, you see how I've moved my voice into the back of my throat? It's a dramatically different emotional impact. So there's the example of that. And if you have any questions on that, jump in, let me know.
Trilby said sexy voice.
Well, thank you, Trilby. That's what it's supposed to be.
We should get everyone on trying their sexy voice and then their teacher voice. Right. I know mine are definitely different. In coaching, we tend to use, and any of the coaches on the call will know this, we tend to use our lover voice, I think, when we go down into our command tonality. So we use that a fair bit as well. If anyone's got any questions, you're most welcome to unmute and jump in. I know Susanna had one that she wanted me to ask because she was driving. So Susanna, if you want to pop that into the question box, I'll ask it for Manny to see. If anyone else has got any questions, while we're waiting for that, Silvestro, who has actually asked me to get this one to you, he has just got his first paid speaking gig which is absolutely
brilliant.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So one of my people in my program, and he's gone and got his first paid speaking gig, and it's for a big pharmaceutical company as well. So there's the promise of more coming as well. He said from his first speaking gig with them, he was told that he came across with his passion, and he came across genuine and real. He has actually asked, though, okay, so he's got the passion and he's genuine and real. What other ingredients should he actually have, though, to make it big as a motivational speaker? Because I know that's his aim.
So if his goal is motivational speaker, there's a piece about how you present the content that is very important for motivational speakers, which is you have to be you have to be aware. Like, this is what let me back up just a step here. This is what I find so utterly enthralling and like kind of all consuming about communication. When somebody does it well, it's as if nothing happened, right? It's as if like they seem like they've always been doing that for 50 lifetimes, but so much goes into it. So with a motivational speaker, one of the very important things is you have to learn how to deliberately communicate with emotional language, right? So you could never be a motivational speaker, say, reading stereo instructions. That's about as far as I can think off the top of my head from motivational type language, right? Now, you'd be a terrible stereo instruction form writer if all you ever spoke in was yay team kind of terminology and everything was like, we're going to do this together. So it's really hard without hearing him. That's a very tough question to answer without hearing him. But I would say that if people perceive him as passionate, and what was the other word that he used, Vanessa?
Raw and real. Okay,
so raw and real. Right away, I would say make sure that you're not just full tilt, 110% raw and real and passionate the whole time, because that becomes the equivalent of the guitar player playing the same note at the same tempo endlessly. We just tune it out.
So variance.
We've got to have variance. Here is one of the most behind the curtain, paid content, high concepts that I could share. Everything in communication, if you want it to be impactful, relies on contrast. That's why we have the three voices. Mm-hmm. That's why within the voices, I teach, the way that I teach vocal tonality is through an acronym called SPEAK. And so the S stands for smile when you speak, because you've got to be able to inject warmth, right? Being able to inject warmth into the way that you speak has an amazing emotional, psychological effect on other people. You would never, I don't know about never, but it's most likely you won't even understand the impact it has until you start doing it and you see people just change the way they relate to you. Like, practice going into your favorite coffee shop or supermarket. And when you say good morning or good afternoon, really smile when you do it and watch what happens. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So that's the S, right? The P is for pacing. And pacing is about rhythm, tempo, and cadence in how you speak. You literally need your delivery to be changing, your inflection to be changing. And, a little sort of cautionary tale there, don't change it gratuitously, but understand that you're working towards getting to a point where you're attaching the correct emotion to everything you say via being the lover, the teacher, the warrior, and via this sort of always changing sense of rhythm and inflection. Those are massively powerful. Those are, let me say that a different way. Those are game-changingly powerful.
Yeah, something that because I did a speaking in Melbourne last week, and I wish I'd had this conversation with you before I did that.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Trilby's actually got a question as well.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
Trilby, if you would like, you can unmute yourself. Perfect. Here she comes.
Hey, I'll give you the pick as well. Hi.
Hello.
Manny. Hi, Vanessa. Yeah, I have a question about accents, okay? Because the first time I heard my voice recorded, I thought, oh my God, this is terrible. Because I find that my accent is just monotone all the time. And I've tried to flex it, and I can't. I feel like I'm over-exaggerating things.
You're doing it right now. You're changing it. It's you're right now in your description of how monotone you are. You're being emphatic and exciting and emotional. So
okay, cool.
I call BS on that.
Okay, that's cool. As long as it's just in my own head, that's cool.
So you say something that brings up a very important point. Do I assume correctly that you like my accent?
I love accents.
Right. To me, I don't have an accent.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
I tell people, because they say, oh, you've got an accent. And I say, no, I've always spoken like this. So
Right.
for me, it's okay.
So the point of that is this. If the accent is the question, don't ever worry about your accent, because to everybody who doesn't speak exactly like you do, your accent is fascinating.
Wonderful.
It's pretty much a rule of thumb. Now, you sort of connected accent with monotone delivery there.
Yeah, I just find my particular accent when I listen to other people from my country. I think, oh my God, like, can we have some flexion here, please? You know?
Right. But see, that's not accent so much as it's just people speaking monotone.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's the answer there. If you have an accent that you know one group of people is going to find thick, you know, I'll never forget talking to a guy who had to walk to the middle of town to get internet to talk to me in Kenya. It was just so powerful a moment. And the first thing he says, I can't even mimic his accent, but to my ears, his accent was beautiful, right? And the first thing he says is, you know, I'm just so worried that I'll have to change my accent, and I don't know if I'm able to do that. So I'll tell you what I told him. Don't even think about changing your accent, because to the rest of the world, it's going to be amazing.
Cool.
Now, I'll use the example of, like, I find in my own experience, women from India, for some reason, is a unique little subset of people who I have a very hard time parsing out what they're saying. Now, I love the accent, but parsing out the words is tough. So, and I've had the sort of unique opportunity. I've worked with about 7 of them. And all I tell them is just slow down. For the most part, slow it down. You know, most people need to slow it down.
And what about the volume? Like, do you suggest, because I think I speak quite low, soft. So, like, do you suggest that we do kind of, because I then feel I'm shouting at people, which is not a very comfortable place.
Right. So that's another great question. And you just reminded me of another thing you said. When you hear your voice recorded, right? Everybody's uncomfortable when they hear their voice recorded. It's just something you have to get used to.
Okay, good.
But that having been said, the part about volume, any speaker, anyone who takes this seriously should be able to speak from their diaphragm when they want to, so that they can create more volume without shouting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
So
rather than coming from the vocal cords,
Yes.
come from the, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
My own theory on communication is, if it's worth saying, it's worth expending energy to say.
Absolutely.
That's how I approach it. I
Thanks,
hope that was
Manny.
helpful. My pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks. I feel much better now. Thanks.
Good.
Shelby, I was the same with my Aussie accent as well. Like, I've got quite a ochre voice at times, being, you know, from outback Aussie land.
Yeah.
And it can come across as quite ochre, but Manny and some of the other people have said to me, no, it's you know.
Yeah.
It's
No,
good,
and that's
so.
a great example, Vanessa, because I love your accent. I mean, I really love accents. For me, it's just, you know, part of who the person is. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
yeah.
I will probably never in my life train someone to be a news anchor, you know, with that non-regional diction. I will probably never do that, and I will not lose any sleep over not doing it. My whole thing is to bring out what is fundamentally you. Because another one of those real high concepts that I teach from is that connection trumps technique every time. I don't ever want anybody that works with me to go on stage and have somebody go, oh, you look like Manny trained you. I just want you to look like you've been doing this comfortably for your entire life.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
My
perfect.
pleasure.
I've got one from Beth. So Beth, because this is going away and into Beth's question is more about how to actually start getting booked for speaking. So
Yeah.
Beth, if you want to unmute yourself, if you want, and you can ask Manny your question. That's Beth Gaydon. Yeah, there you go. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth. Where are you?
I'm in California.
No, where? Oh, there you are. Where are you in the screen is what I meant.
Oh.
I'm in California too.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So breaking into getting gigs.
Mm-hmm.
There are several ways that we can do this now, because what used to be sort of structured and hierarchical because of social media is now virtually flat. You can make friends with the biggest influencers in the world, right? You can theoretically do that. And so the big people do put up gatekeepers. They do put up, event coordinators and people like that you've got to sort of get through. But the cool thing about social media is you can go around and like literally stalk someone who you want to, you can, right? Who you want to get to know and add value. We could do a whole hour on what adding value actually means, but you could add value to the point where they started to take you seriously and they talk to you yourself, and then you're in. So assuming that you don't want to just get an agent, because you can do that too. And in fact, I can recommend you an agent right now, but how much do you know your content? That's the first thing we'd have to establish. How good are you?
Mm-hmm. Well, in my book writing, which I've been doing for a while, I do book writing coaching. I'm very good, and I've helped quite a few people, and I feel very proficient in that.
Yes.
But I'm getting a certification in love attraction coaching, and I'm new in that, so I'm not good yet that I know of.
Yes. The reason I ask is this. If you want to use the social media leveraging method of finding opportunities to speak, you have to know your content. And this should always be the case, but you've got to know your stuff inside and out, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have any notes in front of me, and I can tell you every detail of my curriculum. Okay. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's really important. Now, how do we get started on mastering our content? There are two pieces there that are super valuable. One is blog on it, speak on it, live stream on it, talk. Talk till you can't talk anymore. And when you can't talk anymore, write. Okay. Keep talking about your content. That will just cement it into your mind, right? The other is organize it into, I started to refer to an acronym that I teach for vocal tonality, right? Organize it into some sort of simple, memorable, teachable units. Okay. Now, these may feel like they're sort of not connected to getting gigs, but I assure you, if you can organize your content to where you can just talk about it extraneously, and then you start really pushing yourself out on your favorite social media platforms, people will inevitably take notice. Okay. Myself, my clients, my friends who do speaking, all get speaking gigs from just our live streams. I mean, pretty much without exception. Now, the first one is not going to make you famous, right?
Right.
You're okay with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But that's a great way to sort of cheat it, right? To cheat the old school way where you had to find an agent and, go to those grip and grin, horrible networking meetings and pass your card out and smile when you're tired and all that stuff. So that's what I would do. Beyond that, I am actually creating a 30-day challenge. I'm creating a 30-day sprint, which is going to be 80% accountability, 20% guidance. And it's going to help people who want to start getting their first gigs. This is exactly what it's going to be for. I don't know, Vanessa, I'll let you tell me if it's appropriate to be saying things like that on our
It's fine. Like, everyone's here to learn. So, and I know you've got the challenge coming up, so I'm more than happy for you to tell everyone about it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, especially at the end, of course, we'll reiterate it where they can actually jump on it as well.
Brilliant. If you guys at any point want to sort of get involved in my world and what I'm doing, a great way to start would be, I have a 5-day storytelling challenge coming up next Monday that will be awesome. If you write, this will be killer for you. But for anyone. I mean, if you don't have a powerful way to tell your story yet in social media world, you need one. You absolutely need to be able to tell your story in a way that just is like a brand. Hot and searing.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I might just add too that the bigger you profile, like I notice with me, the more my profile grows, the more I get offered opportunities to speak. Whether they think I'm a good speaker or not, they tend to just launch me there anyway. It's my job to make sure that I can deliver and I improve my speaking. But the more that you get known and seen, and like Manny said, doing your live streams or building a large community around you, people will want you to come along and speak with their audiences as well.
I actually want Vanessa to come to California in August and speak at my event. Just my own, a little reflection on live streams, because I got to tell you honestly, I've done, I don't know how many at this point, 100, 200 maybe. I've done a lot of them, and I still feel like there's just no way this is ever going to be, like this impactful thing. And then I still get emails and messages from live streams I did 3-4 months ago. Somebody just found who's like, what does it take to work with you? Oh my God, you changed my life with that one thing. Like really profound, connected, meaningful stuff. So if you're like me and you're sitting there talking to your phone and you feel a little foolish. Oh my goodness, it's Kathy.
It is me.
Kathy, I know you had a question, so shoot, because I know you've been going in and out, so you might want to shoot it as soon as you can, like now, if we can hear you. No, she's muted again.
Kathy, can you hear me?
Hey, she is.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little quiet.
I'm having the hardest time. I know, I'm having the hardest time with this.
Okay, that just got good.
Did it get good? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't see anything. I can't hear anything, but I can hear you.
Okay. That's all that
Vanessa,
matters.
I cannot remember my question. I had a question, but I can't remember it right at this moment. So
I know what your question was, Kathy. Do you want me to jump in with it? Because I know what it was.
Could you please?
I shall. This is why I take care of this stuff. Kathy actually wrote a question earlier on when I was asking, if anyone's got any, let me know what you would like to ask. And she actually asked, how do you get to push through the nerves and the fear so that you can actually come across focused, experienced, and inspiring? So for those of us that are nervous about getting up there, and I can imagine that happens in the early days, I don't know what it's like when you're experienced like you are, but how do you get to push through and then make sure that you do actually present well?
So that's a great question. Hi, Kathy. I can see you now.
Oh, yay. Hello. Hello, everyone.
So there are a couple of sort of tactics that I teach for that. And then there's the more slow burn, long-lasting sort of mindset piece. Tactics. Memorize your first 2 minutes down to every detail. Okay, from when you walk out on the stage, your first word, your first gesture, everything. Master that 2 minutes like you're in a play. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense, yeah.
Okay, and for everybody else listening, you guys get that? You take that first 2 minutes to a high polish. Here's why. What's happening in your body when you get the nerves is it's adrenaline and cortisol just dumping through your system. Right? Now, the interesting thing about adrenaline and cortisol is it's the exact same set of drugs you feel when you're about to kiss somebody for the first time, when you win the lottery, anything, right? Any high stimuli, anxious moment, whether good or bad, the body reacts the same way, and the brain instantaneously assigns a value to it. Is this good? Is this bad? Am I in danger? Am I, not in danger, et cetera, et cetera. And so, the first kiss at prom and walking across the rickety bridge over the ravine put the same chemicals in your body. And so understanding that chemically fear is very similar to excitement. I mean, it's the same thing. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is this. It can only sustain for so long. Right? The body can't just massively dump adrenaline for more than a couple of minutes. This is why if you ever watched boxers or MMA fighters, they just can't come back out with the same level of like fearsomeness in the third and fourth round, right? Because all their adrenaline has dumped through them, and they're now way more depleted than they were. That's why in the third, fourth round, they're a little slower. They're measuring their punches a little more. So, but the thing is this, if you master that first 2 minutes, then you will have connected with the audience. As soon as you feel that connection with the audience, which by the way, is a tangible thing. Vanessa, you can speak to that. It's absolutely something that you can feel, you can damn near touch it. As soon as you have that connection with the audience, that same waterfall of adrenaline and cortisol starts to feel pretty good. Then the brain says, oh, everything's cool. And guess what it does then? It doses you. And that's my cute little acronym for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. When you get all four of those pouring down your spine, life is good. Life is really good.
Oh. Even by IV.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So if you really do suffer from nerves, just dial in that first 2 minutes. Know every single thing so that while you're panicking, you can fall back on your training.
I love it. Okay.
Cool.
Can I just add one of my experience? My very first speaking experience was when I launched my book, and we had a launch party of around 500 people. And Manny, that was the first time I'd ever spoken. Me, Miss Shy, cannot stand in front of anyone. And I had to stand up in front of 500 people, and I was totally unprepared because I didn't know anything about speaking. They just kind of pushed me up there because I had to do it. I was the coordinator of the book. And 500 people, and I bombed completely. It was so bad. It was such a bomb. But who cares? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just keep getting up and keep doing it again. And I found that I did do some training, though, I want to continue training in this area. But I found just the more that I did, I tended to get less nervous and better at it as well. The nerves would...
There is that too. Yeah. I mean, like anything, right? The reason that the military puts their soldiers in these high stress training environments is because they understand that when you're stressed, you fall back to what you know, right? In high stress environments, you don't think laterally, you don't come up with creative solutions, you go back to the training. So the more that you do it, the more that you've trained, right? And I can tell you guys, in my own experience, I went from almost being verklempt, almost unable to speak the first time, to I haven't had nerves, in recent memory. And it doesn't, by the way, if you can get yourself into a rock and roll band, and that doesn't hurt either.
Takes it all away.
Yeah. When you have to get out there and act like a jackass to make the crowd love you, then you learn some new perspectives on.
Who was in the rock and roll band? Was that you or Kathy?
Yeah,
that was
me.
It was Manny. Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, Kathy might have been as well.
Oh, okay. So the plot thickens.
Right?
I just want to, and yeah, acknowledge Connie, because Connie just said something earlier on, and I haven't missed it, Connie. I've just been waiting to bring it up because we had some questions. But Connie actually, and I just thought you might want to comment on this, Manny, that English is not her first language. So she always feels like she gets judged because she has, you know, the strong accent.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think that it's really important to understand the fundamental dynamic in a room is this. We sitting in the seats want the speaker to succeed. We want the speaker to succeed because A, we want to be entertained, right? We want to know that our time was well spent. B, we want the speaker to succeed because really it's very awkward to be part of watching somebody not succeed, right? And so there's a high impetus there for it to work. In other words, you walk out on a stage and you're starting with 100 points out of 100. Doesn't matter if English is your second language. And all you've got to do is command the crowd correctly. Now, earlier I said authenticity, I said connection trumps technique every time. If I was bilingual, which I'm not, and I was speaking in my second language, I would tell everyone up front. First thing, why even pretend, right, that something that significant is not a significant factor? When you do things like that, the almost overwhelming response is for people to sort of take that like, oh man, that's awesome. The courage it must take you to do that, right? And that is your winning over the crowd moment. One of the things that I'm really an advocate of, I really teach and I really believe in is how do we win the crowd over actually before we speak? And I'll take a little bit of our time to talk about this, Vanessa. So we have, all of us humans have these things inside of ourselves called mirror neurons. Mirror as in reflection, neurons as in complex brain chemistry. We have these things called mirror neurons, and what they're responsible for, they're essentially the transmitters of emotion. I like to think of them as the transmitters of empathy, because for what we're doing, that's the most important thing to understand. And I just told you before that when you feel good, your brain drops dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins down your spine. This will change your physicality. This will change the way you hold your body. Because of mirror neurons, if you can put yourself into a state where you're just like flooded with all these happy chemicals, and because of the fact that most people, A, don't know about mirror neurons, and B, are sort of sitting in like an idling default mode, you walk out charged up. I do this all the time, by the way. You walk out feeling great, charged up, confident, open, vulnerable, and you immediately win the crowd over. Like, that's how fast it happens. If you go from that, walking out with a tall spine and a smile on your face and an erstwhile heart, if it's okay to get kind of metaphysical. I mean, you can't fake this stuff. Let me be clear about that, okay? You can't fake these things I'm talking about. But if you can do that, and then the first thing you say is, you know, let me just tell you right before we get started, English is my second language. You've won the crowd over. All you have to do at that point is like, you know, not fall down and die. And you're pretty much going to kill it.
No, I agree. I say, you know, if you come up, stand up, be vulnerable, English is my second language, and automatically people are on your side. Yeah. And like you're saying, I think you have to, whatever you did, I think they're still going to be on your side. So, that's my thoughts on it. Beth, do you want to ask the question that you just popped into the chat box, if you want to unmute yourself and ask Manny that one?
Sure. So my next question is, what is your advice for people that aren't naturally outgoing or they tend to be soft-spoken?
So those are two different things. And they're actually not connected. I mean, they're connected if you go deep back into the psychology, but here's the thing. I myself am 100% introverted. 100% introverted. So oftentimes we confuse introverted with some degree of being fundamentally antisocial. And antisocial is not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. It's just, it's a fact of life for some people, right? They just get anxiety and stuff like that. So introverted means that to recharge, I need to be alone or with a small group of highly trusted people. It's really the definition of an introvert. So I assume that you're just asking for a friend, right? Because you're obviously...
Nope, I'm considered a shy introvert.
I actually could tell when you first spoke. You've got a very soft little voice. The soft voice part, you just have to practice. You have to practice speaking from your diaphragm. If you want to communicate, it's going to take fluctuations in volume, right? Let me rephrase that. If you want your communication to have emotional impact, it's going to take being able to modify your volume louder and softer. Because as I said earlier, everything is about contrast when it comes to keeping people's attention, right? Mm-hmm. You see how I just shifted into the lover voice there?
Yes.
Okay. But then if I want everybody to pay attention, see how I did that? Mm-hmm. These things, it's one thing to sort of work the angle of like English not being your first language. And that's a very powerful actually tool. But when it comes to things like not projecting, that's something that you need to be prepared. If you want to be impactful, you need to be prepared to sort of step out of that comfort zone. Interestingly enough, Beth, I don't know if this is you or not. A lot of times when somebody has a hard time projecting their volume, it's because of stuff. It's because of your emotional stuff, right? It's not just I was just born with a quiet voice, right? You know what I mean? It's because of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. But.
Yeah. Well, I can tell. If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't want to embarrass you, but I can tell that you're working on it. I can tell that you're aware of it, and I can tell that you recognize that you are it. I can get all that from speaking to you.
Okay. Good.
Well, it's kind of just something that has come from studying this topic for so long. Once you realize that, how if somebody is 50 years old and a smoker and you put them in a lineup with 10 healthy people that are 50, you can tell the smoker right away, or the heavy drinker or the drug addict, right? It's the same way our voices and our communication are the same way with that, with our emotional lives. Like it all shows up in our bodies and our voices. And so once you start to know that, you can sort of start to understand people a little more deeply.
Okay.
But that was really about how I could tell those things about you. For you, yes, you would need to go through the process of understanding why there's something holding you back from showing up.
Okay.
Right? You came here, you're talking to me, so you must want to show up a little more. And yet you asked that question, which tells me that you recognize that you're not showing up yet. Was that helpful? Was that clarifying?
Yes, very.
Okay, very, very good.
Thank you.
I thought I would just add that I actually thought Beth has got a beautiful tone to her voice. I know she'll need to project more, but I actually think the tone to her voice is beautiful.
The tone is gorgeous. Yeah, the tone is actually, I'm going to flatter you here, so I may embarrass you. The way that you speak is like a small flower. It's very beautiful to me. Yeah. But you will need to project it, especially if you intend to speak from the stage.
Okay. I can learn to do that.
That's right.
I have, thanks, Beth. I have one from Susanna. Now, Susanna's here on the call, but I think she has a problem with her audio because she's driving in the car. So she's asked me to ask it. So let's go. So my question is about starting and closing smoothly. I find these two times tricky. How to start my speech more so.
My favorite, so I'll be honest with you guys. Well, I'll always be honest, but I'll be revealing with you and let you know that there's a part of me that is still very much a little boy. And that's because my childhood was taken from me. I did not get to live a childhood as kids are supposed to. And so there's this big, fearsome grown man, right? But there's also this little boy that he protects. And the little boy inside of me loves this beyond all rational explanation. The best way to start a speech is once upon a time. It so goes back to the books I used to read as a kid. Now, you don't literally say once upon a time. You can, but so the most powerful way is to start in with a story. The second most powerful way is to ask questions. The third most powerful way, which is not really kind of on a par with the first two, is to introduce yourself. But asking questions right away before you introduce yourself, and my personal favorite, because my whole life as a kid was fairy tales and Dr. Seuss, and my personal favorite is Once Upon a Time. I just love that.
What about closing?
Closing, I'm not prepared to say there's one right way to close. Mm-hmm. You know, I say this. I would argue that there's virtually no time and no context in presenting where it's not more powerful to be able to be a storyteller, right? Even if you're just like, you know, if you're the keynote speaker at the widget seminar for the whole world of widget producers, and it's going to be boring and dry and you know it, it's still better if you can give your speech through a story. The example that I give in my video course is one guy gets up to talk about the widget production for the year, and he reads a bunch of statistics, right? And he gives a bunch of data. The other guy says the same content, but he says it in the context of Joe and how widgets served him in his business. So just that little bit of personification throughout the speech will keep people listening longer. So to answer the question now that I've given you the setup, here comes the close, is you need to have elements of storytelling no matter what kind of speaking you're doing, whether it be motivational, keynote, in sales, like presentation selling, seminar selling, or God forbid if you wind yourself doing the keynote at the widget convention, you know. And so if we agree that storytelling is powerful and useful there, then you have to understand that you need to end your story. So there has to be a resolution. You know, that might, depending on the context, that could be closing sentences, closing statements that had to do with looking into the future. Like that's a very common one, right? So this is everything I've shared with you. This is why it's important. This is the journey we've all taken. Now, looking to the future, ... That's a great way to close. But the closing is a little more sort of unique than the opening. We can give you rules for how to open strong, right? The closing, what I would do if you're unsure is practice it and bounce it off people. I think that's very important because we can get so into our own heads, can't we? Where we can't objectively analyze our work, right? And or if you have the luxury when, you know, if you've got enough time before a presentation, record the ending, leave it alone for a few days and come back to it. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was waving goodbye to Connie because she's just jumping off now. And so that's all I was doing. I was just waving. And actually, as Connie's just gone, she actually made the comment that she remembers someone said to her to start with, remember when.
Yeah. That's a once upon a time starting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we are getting close to the end. So if anyone has got a question that you want to hit Manny with now, I've got one more from someone who left this question with me for you, Manny. So I'll ask you that now. But if anyone else is thinking about what you want to ask Manny, you need to jump in very, very soon because we're going to wind down shortly. So Carmel has asked, how do you identify the best speaking opportunities to actually grow your exposure?
I don't know that there's a formula for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's a formula for it. It's like any other self-propelled endeavor. You've got to get in. You got to get in the mix. You got to get known. You know, it takes time, right? That having been said, I'm a huge fan of creating my own opportunities, literally creating my own events to speak at. I'm a big fan of that. And then, you know, even more so, and maybe this is a bit of a tangent, I'm a bigger fan of doing what I'm doing in August, which is creating opportunities for other speakers.
And you just came up with that, and then it just went bam, like you had so many responses to that.
Yeah. You
just put it on Facebook the other day, and it was like...
Everybody keeps telling me, oh, that's a sign you're on the right track.
Well, it's a sign people are noticing you because everyone responded to it.
Yeah, which is awesome, which is really awesome. So, you know, you got to hustle. You want this? You want to be a speaker? I mean, if you want this, you've got to hustle. This is like any other entrepreneurial, self-propelled endeavor. The amount of hustle will largely dictate the outcome.
And might I add too, if you've got some great connections, you know, continue to make great connections, because I find that just for me personally, and from what I advise my people to do, is make great connections with people, because then they open amazing doors for you. Like Manny's just said, you know, I'll talk to Vanessa about coming over in August for his event. I'm like, wow, you know, and it's because I connected with Manny. So This is how it happens. So
this is how it happens. Yeah. It's so organic, isn't it? I mean, the reality of it is so much different than I think a lot of us have the image in our head. You know, it's just, but you got, so now we need to talk another hour on authenticity and which we can't. Yeah. So just remember, when you are trying to build connections and trying to provide value, please remember, you can sell a turd once, but nobody's going to buy it twice. So you've got to be like legit, right? You've got to be coming from your heart and your gut with intention and value. All those things that you hear to the point that they're cliches, they're really real.
And I might add, be a nice person, because word gets around pretty quickly in this industry if you're not a nice person. I met someone last night who, Mark, we know, remember Mark? We had our chat last night, and he came across as a really nice person. So, you know, we agreeing to do some stuff together, and I liked him. So,
yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you guys, when Vanessa and I were speaking last week, I just was sort of moved by the feeling, and I said, hey, do you ever do any kind of like partnerships and stuff like that? And what you said was, it really depends on the feel. If you've got something you want to talk to me about, flick it over, which I love that you guys say flick. And, you know, but that's an example of what she's talking about. For those of you guys listening, it's exactly right. It's all relationships today. It's all relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I always say to my people, you know, if you're, especially for the new coaches, if you're just sitting at home in your little home office expecting your coaching business to soar, it's not going to happen that way. I sit at home in my little house, as you can see, but I do a lot of connecting with people, you know, virtually. That's the way I have to do it, because I live out in the country. I can't go off, you know, and I mean, I'm not really a great networker anyway, but I make great connections virtually, and that's what helps me. So, Trilby, if you want to jump in and unmute yourself, welcome you to ask that last question that you had.
Hi, me again, Manny.
Hello, Trilby.
And this might be part of your 5-day storytelling challenge, but where I find it difficult is to kind of know the difference between telling my story in a way that is a story rather than this is what I know and this is who I am, and, you know, this preaching kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I actually find it quite hard to talk about myself, because I have done so much work and I actually don't really want to talk about that stuff anymore. So I've had to relearn that. But I know that people say I come across as quite intellectual, which is not what I want at all. I mean, yes, I want to deliver the goods, but I want to be warm and, come and sit with me and let's have a chat. That's what I want. So is that like, would that be in the voice, the tone?
A lot of it. Well, it exists in all of those areas. The body language and the voice are responsible for about 92% of the way our impact is made. 92% of the content is communicated in the body language and the tone. Beyond that, though, so the content itself is like 8%, right? But tires are 8% of a car too, right? And they're pretty damn important, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So all of it needs to be paid attention to. And the difference between storytelling and preaching will be found a lot in the tone, but it'll also be found in the perspective. Now, I am forced by desire to grow so I can reach more people to sort of promote my own stuff and my own book. And the storytelling challenge I'm doing, I use my book as an example a lot. The book really did take off and go to international bestseller in 72 hours, which blew me away, by the way. I had no expectation it would do that. And I think that one of the reasons it was so powerful for people was because I told the story of my life. I told it unflinchingly, but I didn't make myself a hero or a victim. And that's a perspective issue, right? It's a perspective of how you tell the story.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the difference between preaching and storytelling, or proselytizing and storytelling, is, you got to make sure that you represent these key things, whatever they are for you, neither as a martyr nor as some sort of conquering hero.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you one thing, both martyr and conquering hero get really tiresome to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, thank you.
I hope that helps. I really do.
Yeah, it's just to have that awareness of how the message is being delivered.
Yeah. One of the fundamental rules in the world of communication study, and this is fascinating to me, I really struggle with this, is that it is the sender's message, the sender's responsibility to make sure the message is heard and interpreted correctly.
Yeah, they teach that in NLP.
Yeah. Oh, do they? Okay, they took that right out of my college courses.
Well, who knows who took it from?
Right.
Yeah, but exactly. So, they say the way your message is received is your responsibility.
But I like that too, though. I like that because it puts the onus on us, right, to become better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is that responsibility, and I can change this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you. That helps a lot.
Good.
Thank you, Manny.
Good. My pleasure.
Well, we have to wrap it up, Manny. I know that we could talk here forever and ever, and you and I can. I know that much. Shut us up. So tell us a little bit about the challenges that you've got on at the moment. If anyone wants to join it, I will put the links up afterwards and also send them out to everyone who's on the call.
Okay, great.
Plus also to the list. So tell us where to get in contact with you.
So right now, the single best place is just to jump into my free but private group called Wolfpack, WOLFEPACK. I never would have chosen that name, but a friend of mine urged me that I had to do it, and so I did it. And oddly enough, people love it. But anyway, that's like the best single point of contact. It's really active and really engaged and exciting, and everybody's so glad to be there.
And brand new, and it's growing really quickly, and he's got a brand new group growing really quickly because you're really engaging in there. Like, you're really getting people engaging and talking. So it's a great place to be for everyone to go along if you want to learn more about speaking.
Yeah, and the whole focus is speaking and communication mastery.
Yeah. I will put that up, and then that way you'll find out about everything that Manny's up to. Yep. You can join in on everything that he's doing if you jump into the group Wolfpack. So I'm a member, so I'll see you in there. That's right.
You can see Vanessa in there. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, you were going to speak.
No, it's fine. I want to thank everyone for jumping on, and I'm sure that you've all got a lot of wealth from Manny. I know there's heaps more questions that we could ask, but go into Wolfpack and then you've got full access yourself to Manny whenever you want him. Ta-da! Thank you so much. And it's lunchtime here, so from Oz, goodbye and good afternoon. And I know for you in the US, it'll be evening time, so good night.
That's right. It's dinner time here.
Hey, I'm just going to stop the recording now, and thanks so much, Manny.
All right. Thanks, you guys.